Hello, Mr. Goll. This is a quick tutorial video demonstrating the basic operations of the lightsaber. Two button switches under the clamp card.
You were the chosen one!
You have your aux switch that cycles through sound fonts.
These aren't the drop. I'm a Jedi.
That keeps going to the next sound font. And, well, given that there is 28 sound fonts, if you want to go back, just press and hold the aux button and press the main switch. Say we're on.
I am a Jedi.
We want the Luke sound
Like my
font,
father.
but we press it accidentally one more time. All we do is just press and hold.
I am a Jedi.
There we go. We just went back.
Like my father before me.
Now, add your desired sound font. Tap once to turn it on. You get your flash on clash and tap the aux switch at this point to trigger blaster block. And if you want blade block up, press and hold this and then trigger a clash. Fairly simple. And every sound font has its own designated BGM. To activate that, you press and hold the main switch for 2 seconds and then release. See, if you just tap it, that turns it on. But if you press and hold it, you just turn on the saber track. Same thing to turn it off. Okay, now, so far there hasn't been any light coming out because the blade is not put in. Let's show you how to put in the blade. You'll need the Allen key. All of the screws on the saber has the same size, so this is all you would ever need. In case you lose this, I would highly recommend the hex key screw kit from Walmart. It has one screwdriver and many different heads, like 12 dozens of them. Just eyeball the general size, and one of them's gotta fit. That's what I use for my sabers anyway. Take your blade. You might have to pinch the bunny ears a little bit, and yeah, it's a pretty tough fit. Sorry, it's a bit hard to try to do this on camera. I'm gonna pull this closer to my chest and do it off screen, but you'll get the idea when you're handling it yourself. The trick is to pinch the bunny ears a little bit. Okay, now the blade is in. You want to really make sure the disc touches the pins at the bottom, like shoving the blade all the way in. Okay, that should be a pretty secure connection. It is not. Let's have it go down a bit further. Oh, I felt it. There you go. And before you go on spinning and doing tricks, tighten the blade retention screws again so that the blade does not fly out. This is a fairly tight blade socket. I doubt it would just fly out even without the blade retention screw. But if you want to kind of engage in saber dueling or spinning practice, I'd still recommend you tighten that screw. Okay, now with the lights coming on, we can show you another trick that the saber have. It's called a color wheel. So say we have the classic green color for the Luke's lightsaber, but we want to change. What do? We press both buttons at the same time. Listen for that sound, and now all you do is rotate the saber. You see, as you rotate, the color changes. And once you reach your desired color, let's give Luke a blue blade now. Just do the same thing, press both at the same time. Now you've locked the blade color to blue. Okay, so the battery is an 18650, which should last a good while, but eventually the battery will go out. And surprisingly, when the battery is low, the first thing to crap out is not the light, it's the sound. The motion sensor on the board is very sensitive to voltage change, so when the battery goes low, it does not function properly. The vibration from the speaker itself would start to make the saber think that it's being swung. So if the saber suddenly turns very verbose, getting a lot of false swings, or the clashing sound just wouldn't stop after you triggered one, those are all signs of the battery going low. Also, the speaker is going to start crackle. Whenever those happens, no worries, just put out the battery, give it a full charge, and everything should go back to normal. Now let's show you how to pull the battery out. To do that, you have to remove the lower shaft, but right now you see it's locked. It does not let you spin any further. That's because one of the two plungers is locking this in place. To take out the plunger, you actually have to slide out the clamp and then just tilt it. The two plungers should fall right out. Now you can spin the lower shaft freely and pulling it apart. Which, by the way, during the friction fitted part, you can already see the matte coating is starting to fall apart. If that bothers you or you're not a fan of the matte look, you can always take an acetone or 70-degree alcohol to the whole saber. Just wipe it off and it will reduce everything back to the mirror polish finish. Take your lower shaft out. Now the clamp would also just slide out. Here you have the inner shaft, this beautiful brass that also just screws right off. That would give you full access to your USB port and the SD card. Now, adding or new sound fonts to a Profi soundboard or changing the blade style does have a bit of a learning curve to it. But if you really want to dab into that, well, you just open yourself to a whole new world. Let me know, and I will send you the tutorials that I've checked out to teach myself how to do this. But that's it for that. Let's show you how to actually take the battery out. Now the battery may appears ready for like just put it out, but I would actually go a step further at pulling the entire chassis out before I attempt removing the battery. It's just, you see the tip of the battery, it's still kind of stuck inside the shaft. I don't want to risk that creating a leverage point and damaging the chassis. So what I do is I always loosen this last chassis retention screw. That would allow me to pull the whole chassis out. And then it's really easy, just tap on the opposite side and the whole battery should come right out. Maybe it's a little bit harder than I thought. Just press it gently. There we go. You have your battery, take your charger, careful with the polarities, minus, and take this end to any 4.2 voltage USB output head and you're good. This arrow right here is an indicator of how the charging is going. They will turn from red to green when the battery is fully charged. I am going to ship it like this with the battery packaged separately so the saber does not turn back on during shipment. Let's quickly show you how to put everything back together. First, slide the chassis back in and make sure you line up the two switches with the two switch holes right there. And turning to the back, and you'll see the blade retention screw would also line up. Now, for some reason, they drilled out two holes. The top one is the one that you want to use. I have no idea why there is two, but just make sure you don't get them confused. Okay, we are, whoops, all lined up. Now it's a little bit harder. You see that it's pressing it back because the blade is still attached. When you're doing all this without the blade, it should be a lot easier. The connection pins at the top end of the chassis, they're all spring loaded. That's why they're kind of bouncing back and pushing the chassis out. Give that a tight connection. Okay, let's put this beautiful lower half of the chassis back. the threaded end goes in first. I don't have any silicone-based grease at hand, but if you have some, it wouldn't be such a bad idea to lubricate the threads a little bit. Slide your clamp back on, lining up the switch plunger tunnels. And this is the tricky part. You put this top one in first. It also locks the whole thing in place. Do not put in the other one yet, because if you put it in, you wouldn't be able to put the lower shaft back on, which is what we're doing now. Screw the lower half of the chassis on, and you'll see the grooves would start to line up. Okay, we can't go any further, and it's perfectly aligned. And the second plunger will just slide in like that. And put in your clamp. Check to see if everything is nice and snuggle. There we go. And there we have it. One last thing would be the display stand. It comes in two pieces. It's a sliding lock mechanism. It goes just like that. And take the blade out, and this thing should rest perfectly on your desktop. That is all I got for you today. If you have any more questions, feel free to send me a message at any time. I hope you enjoy the saber.